My name is Janice McGeachin. I'm the current Lieutenant Governor of Idaho. I've lived in Idaho for most of my life. Since I was 12 years old, my parents moved to Idaho from Arizona when my dad was employed out at the Idaho National Laboratory. So I grew up in Idaho Falls, went to high school there, graduated from high school. I did go back to Arizona to attend the University of Arizona, where I got my degree in finance. But after getting my degree, I moved back to Idaho Falls. My husband, Jimmy, and we've been married for 35 years this summer. He was actually born and raised in Idaho Falls, and we've lived there ever since. I'm running to become Idaho's next governor. Sure. Thanks for that question. I am uniquely qualified to run and serve as Idaho's first female lieutenant. I was the first female lieutenant governor, and I'm hoping to become Idaho's first female governor. What makes my candidacy so unique is just really an expression of who I am as a person. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a small business owner. Together with my husband, we own and operate multiple businesses and provide jobs and opportunities for almost 100 families across the state of Idaho. And so because of my collective experience in life with family, businesses, in my community, and having 10 years of legislative experience under my belt with a proven conservative record, that's a big difference between myself and others that are running for this position, is that I have a proven voting record on any given issue, whether it's voting to fight back against increasing taxes, whether it's fighting against and voting against the implementation of Common Core in Idaho, voting against the implementation of Obamacare in Idaho, voting to balance budgets and actually cut and reduce government spending instead of increasing government spending. All these things I have a proven record for. And most importantly, I am a woman of faith. I believe that life begins at the moment of conception. And I also have a proven record of voting, not only voting for pro-life legislation, but also sponsoring a number of bills and enacting the bills. I worked on, it was called the Woman's Right to Know law, where we required the Department of Health and Welfare to put together booklets providing solid information for women who were considering getting an abortion, and information about the different stages of a woman's pregnancy, again, from the moment of conception, so that women will make the right choice. And then I also was the author and implementation of the ultrasound law, which required that women be given the opportunity to view an image of their unborn child, which has gone a long ways towards reducing abortion in Idaho. So with that experience, and then on top of that, this is my 4th year serving as the lieutenant governor, and I have almost 4 years of experience in the executive branch of government. So combining all those things together, it makes my campaign and my candidacy be very unique and have, this is what I have to offer to the people of Idaho. We are losing our state, and that's the reason why I'm running for governor is because we are losing our individual liberties and freedoms. We're losing the sovereignty of our state, and we're losing the traditional conservative values that most Idahoans hold dear to them. Over the past 2 years, I've had a front row seat of watching Mr. Little and the way that he has mismanaged one of the worst domestic crises in our nation since the Civil War. Mr. Little went in and arbitrarily determined that some people were unessential and some businesses were unessential, and then went down and closed those businesses down. I have stood with those businesses since day one, and I've spoken out against those decisions. Unfortunately, we have lost more than 20% of our small businesses because of this decision from Mr. Little. He also went in and declared Idaho be put into extreme emergency order, and which is a section of code that's in martial law, which enables Mr. Little to go in and change laws. He went in and changed election law in 2020 and robbed the Idahoans of our right to vote in person. And it's this mail-in voting that led to so many of the irregularities in the 2020 presidential election. And when Mr. Trump, who has endorsed my campaign, when Mr. Trump was being supported by other states like Texas to protect the right of states to determine their own election law, I asked Mr. Little if he would join that lawsuit, and he refused. So not only did he change the law himself and enact the same provision for other states that led to election irregularities, he refused to support President Trump. I was able to successfully implement or include an amicus brief on behalf of the people of Idaho, the state of Idaho, along with 40 other lawmakers when Mr. Little refused. And so we supported Mr. Trump in his election. And I do also believe in continuing forensic audits of our elections. And I have joined Arizona Senator Wendy Rogers in supporting a 50-state forensic audit of the 2020 election. So those are a number of the things, but, you know, on top of just the decisions that Mr. Little made in the last 2 years and robbing of us of our constitutional right to worship freely, telling us we couldn't go to church, there's other things that, because Mr. Little continues to bring this money into Idaho, this federal money, massive amounts of federal dollars. In the first year, he spent it all on his own without bringing the legislature into session, which is, again, unconstitutional. And a lot of the money that has come into our state from the federal government has strings attached to it, which dictates how we spend that money. And in many cases, from what we've learned, is that these requirements from the federal government are actually contrary to our Idaho laws and our Idaho Constitution. That's how we're losing the sovereignty of our state, and it needs to stop. We need to get that money out of our budget. That's the first thing I will be doing as the governor of Idaho, is taking all that money right off the top when we begin our budgeting process for the new fiscal year. And when it comes to protecting our traditional conservative values, the area of most deep concern that I have there, what I see happening in Idaho, is this assault on our children, the assault on our parents through our educational system, the controversial and harmful teachings of Marxism in our K through 12 schools and our universities. I formed a task force to study what was happening here in Idaho, and we found a lot of evidence, a lot of information. At the time, and even now, Mr. Little refuses to acknowledge and admit that this is a threat in our state. But it's real, it's there, and we need to do more to protect our children. We're going to go back to the basics in education, teaching the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s, teaching them about our constitutional republic, and just get rid of a lot of the nonsense that's being taught in our schools today. Well, many people know that when I was serving as acting governor, when Mr. Little left the state, after the legislative body tried to deal with some of these health mandates and failed, and thousands of people were asking for help and support, when he left the state, I issued an executive order which prohibited the localities, whether it's a school, a public health district, a city, or a county, to implement and enforce a mask mandate. Unfortunately, Mr. Little overturned that as soon as he came back into the state. And I also issued an executive order to prohibit what's called a vaccine passport, meaning that a person had to show proof of a vaccination in order to go into a facility or receive a service or go to school or work. And unfortunately, he overturned that as well. When the legislative body finally got around to passing a law to prohibit this in the legislature, Mr. Little vetoed that bill while he took in thousands and thousands of dollars from Big Pharma. Now, what Mr. Little should have done then is he should have declared a conflict of interest under Senate Rule 39H, and he knows what that is because he too was the lieutenant governor, stepped out of the state and allowed the lieutenant governor as acting governor to sign that bill into law. That's what should have happened this year. What should have happened last year when the legislature tried to restate the constitutional balance of power between the legislative and the executive branch of government. Mr. Little vetoed that. Again, if I would have, first of all, these transgressions would never have occurred under a McGeachin administration. And if I would have been acting governor at the time when the legislature tried to correct that constitutional balance of power, I would have signed those bills into law. That's just a couple of the things that I see where we should have acted differently. As far as like taxation and helping the people of Idaho, we had a $2 billion excess revenues coming into our state, and Mr. Little gave a small reimbursement back to the people through an income tax rebate. We didn't have any removal of tax on food. That would have been a priority that we should have done for the people, because now that we have rampant inflation, food costs are really increasing, and that's a real struggle for Idaho families. We should have given even if it's a temporary reduction in the gas tax, 33 cents a gallon would have gone a long ways to help Idaho families. It costs us over double to fill up our gas tanks today than it did a year ago. And we should have done more to help Idahoans with their exacerbating levels of property tax. So we had this excess amount of revenues come in, a small rebate given back to the people. And instead of giving the money back to the people and helping the people of Idaho, that money was used to grow government programs. And Mr. Little signed and approved budgets which grew government programs more than 21% in this upcoming fiscal year. So there's a lot of room for improvement and greater opportunity for the people of Idaho. Yes, what I would like people of Idaho to know about who I am as a person, Janice McGeachin, I would like the people to know that under a McGeachin administration, I will work towards turning back our government, our state government, back to the people of Idaho, rather than to the special interests and the corrupt crony corporate elite that is running our state today. Thousands and thousands of Idahoans call my office every day and can't get through the level of bureaucracy within our state agencies, whether it's Department of Transportation, Department of Labor, Department of Corrections. Across the board, Idahoans are struggling. And as a small business woman, I know how to have an efficient operation. And I know that if I am not providing an excellent level of customer service to my customer, then I'm not going to be out of business. I'll be out of business. And so I will run the government the same way, and that our government will be more responsive to the people of Idaho. We will turn our government back to the people and away from the special corrupt crony interests that is driving our state policy today. And I'm happy and I'm honored to be having the ability to serve as your lieutenant governor for the past 3.5 years. And I will be honored to serve as your next governor as well. And I humbly ask for your support on May 17th to become your next governor. Absolutely. Thanks for that question as well. People may or may not know that my campaign has been endorsed by President Donald J. Trump because I support the America First policies of protecting our nation. And with that endorsement, we have identified 190,000 households in Idaho. Idaho voted for Mr. Trump with a 30-point spread in the recent elections. So we have identified 190,000 households across the state. And so we are targeting those homes. We are canvassing neighborhoods, meaning going to all those homes and giving them brochures and making phone calls. We have the best and the biggest grassroots campaign that we're reaching out to the voters. And not only that, Colette, I have the support of Michelle Malkin, who's a national podcast American conservative. I have the endorsement of Dr. James Lindsay, the endorsement of former Ambassador Alan Keyes, who is a stalwart defender of life in America. And those are some of the national endorsements that I have for my campaign. Locally here in Idaho, I have the formal endorsement of 8 Republican Central Committees in Idaho, including 2 of the 4 largest ones, Kootenai County and Bonneville County. What's unique about this is that typically Republican Central Committees stay completely out of the primary election, and they don't endorse, they don't get involved. But in this case, I have the support of 8 of these Central Committees because they recognize the importance of this election, making sure that we save our state and save our traditional values. And I also have the endorsement of a group. It's one of the largest conservative organizations. It's called Conservatives of PAC in the Treasure Valley. That's Ada County and Canyon County. I have their endorsement. I have the endorsement of the Republican Liberty Caucus, and including a number of small business owners, candidates, and small Idaho family farmers. So we have great support throughout the state, and our momentum continues to grow as we get closer to May 17th.